February is Black History Month, so what better way to show homage than by evaluating Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech. Dr. King started his civil rights career in Montgomery, Alabama from the mid-1950s until his assassination in 1968. The I Have a Dream speech was given August 28, 1963, to over 250,000 people on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial during the March on Washington. King's speech called out for equality for African Americans, all victims of injustice, and the economically disadvantaged. In the 1950s, segregation in the South was very prevalent. Restaurants, for example, restrooms, and bubblers were both coordinated by blacks or whites. Lynching still occurred, and economically, people of color were at a disadvantage. Dr. Martin Luther King's speech is a lasting piece of rhetoric. It shaped the thoughts of many people in the U.S. To this day, the speech is used as a point of reference in many schools. The speech played a part in establishing new laws that to this day are still in effect. For example, the Jim Crow laws. Techniques that made the speech more effective were the word choice. He used negative and positive words. Some of the negative words that captured you were captivity, poverty, exile, persecution, and despair. And some of the positive words were freedom, justice, faith, and hope. He also used a lot of repetition. For instance, continuously saying, "I have a dream." He used a lot of metaphors as well. Examples. He began with Abraham Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation, which freed millions of slaves in 1863, as well as it being the 100-year centennial of that time. He used the U.S. Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and Gettysburg Address as all points of reference. According to my grandmother, Vera May, who was able to actually listen to the speech when it was given, stated that Dr. Martin Luther King evoked feelings of hope and power. People had the power, individuals had the power to change things. People were then optimistic about the future. Emotions were stirred by the use of fluctuations in Martin Luther King's voice and body posture. He compared the then present with the past and gave people something to think about. The audience to whom Dr. King was addressing were first primarily whites, because Dr. King was asking for a change from people who set the law. Secondarily, the blacks, explaining that they all have the ability to make changes peacefully. It was very effective because within the next 10 years, there were many significant changes that were made. According to the History Channel, the speech had a tremendous impact on the way of life. The wrongs he set out to right were internal and shaming, which made people want to change. This speech held Dr. Martin Luther King in a different light and spread his name across the nation. To me, the speech has very little impact on my life due to the changes that he called for that were already made. Martin Luther King Jr.'s tone of voice during the speech is probably effective back in the 1950s, but now it would be considered monotone. The only thing that I would do differently if I were to give the speech is to use more variation in my voice when speaking.